Hello and welcome to Scrapping on the Fly. My name is Kristen and I'm here with day 23 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life, series 11. And today's sketch is created by Dana Terry with designs by Dana, and her information will be in the description box below. I have these two pictures of my son and his dad, and that's what I'm going to be documenting. And I'm not using any collection. I'm just using scraps. I did use an 8.5 by 11, that red, because I didn't have a lot of red scraps. I do have a piece of red vellum scrap that I want to use a little bit of. I've got some blues, red and black. The bike is red, black, and blue. Both their favorite colors are red and black, so I figured those were the colors I would go with. And I'm thrilled with how it turned out. I do have these Bramble Fox perspectives. I'm just going to use those little red hearts on this layout. There are hearts on the sketch, and I do kind of go with that, but that's not my predominant embellishment. But I did pull out all of the hearts that I had in my collection that are red and or blue. I've got all these itty bitty little hearts from Sandy Lion or Francis Myers, one of those. And I've got to get some of those used up. I have a ton of them. And no, they're Miss Grossman's. And they are old. I've had them for a long time. This is from Crafter Square, and I want to get that used up. So I've got my papers, my embellishments, my pictures, and this awesome sketch. So let's see how this goes. Now I am going to bring in some mixed media. At the time when I started, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I had originally shared some splatter bits that I was going to use, but I didn't use them. So I just cut that part out as to not confuse you. So I will be bringing some of that in. I'm just laying this out to see how I like it and where the areas I need to use mixed media mostly are going to be. So I cut me and Dad as well as this frame out on my Cricut. And if you all are at all interested in how I build my layouts on Cricut, let me know. I don't mind to attempt to do a short tutorial on what I do. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I have had people mention it before, and so I figured I'd put that out there. So I am going to use more of the scraps from where I use the papers to cut these out. And like I said, all of this is scraps except for I did use an 8.5 by 11 red paper because I didn't have enough scraps for that. So I'm just building out what I want this to look like. I love using the scraps. I love having that opportunity. You can always add scraps in there. And then I'm going to use a little punch that I've had for 1,072 years, I do believe. And punch out a few hearts from this vellum. I thought I might tuck that in as a layering piece, but I ended up not doing that because I had enough going on this layout. You may be looking at it thinking, I don't see how there's a lot going on. Oh, it's coming. So this is Good Old Days by Yvonne Creations. I got this from Peacecraft Love in a mystery box of stamps. And I love it because I have lots of things to document with playing cards. My son loves to play chess. The dice and everything are really fun. And then it has these gears on here. And I don't think I realized that because I wasn't paying much attention. I mean, the cards and games were what were so exciting to me originally. But these gears are perfect for this layout because they're working on his bike. So I start by creating these 3 clusters of gears down here in the bottom. Now, the 3 colors that I am using, Distress Oxide by Tim Holtz, is Black Soot, Fired Brick, and Chipped Sapphire, because those were the 3 that were going to be the closest to what I wanted to use. Now, Chipped Sapphire's got a hint of a purple to it. I'm okay with that. I have no issues with that. I think in the end, I love the way this layout turned out. So I do need to acquire a more bluey blue ink pad. So that's more what I would call UK blue because I am from Kentucky, or, well, that's all I call it, is UK Blue. That's what I need to acquire. I'm going to put that in my notebook and remember that's the next thing I need to order. So I'm making a cluster of the biggest gear in the black soot, and then the smaller one in the chip sapphire, and then this little cluster of 3 gears in the fired brick. And I do have candied apple, which is a more reddy red, but I kind of wanted it to be a little bit different. So I smushed some of my chip sapphire onto some packaging and then drip some water in there. And then I make this little mush up here because I didn't want to put that frame and everything up there with nothingness behind it. I thought that it would look boring, especially once I get all of the stuff down in the bottom. I did trim that top picture a little. It was just a big from where I took the picture inside the house, there was just a lot of like our torn up doormat and our front porch step, and there was no need for that. So I just trimmed it down. It wasn't needed for the layout or anything, but it was just not, it wasn't pretty. Oh, so now I am going to start stamping and getting some stuff going on. So here you're going to see a boo-boo. So pay close attention to this little spot where I was pointing, the arrow's pointing. Yeah, my ink pad got caught on my stamp and fell on my layout and left this lovely little partial outline of the stamp pad. Yay. You know, whatever. I mean, you know. So I'm just going through adding some clusters to where the this big open space down here in the bottom is. So once I get all of those down there, I feel much better about this space. It doesn't seem as empty. Now, this is how I'm going to fix the problem. I just took my ink pad and made little outlines all around like it was an intentional boo-boo or an intentional, you know, act. Like, so instead of trying to cover that, which would have been strange, I guess I could have put some torn paper down there to cover that up. And that's an option too. But instead, I just took my ink pad all the way around and put in different amounts some little ink lines, and then I pull out my fired brick and do the same thing in the same areas, so they're kind of crisscrossing. So it just adds a little bit of, you know, extra something to the all that white paper, which actually is a bonus for me because I'm not a huge fan of a lot of white paper. I can't handle the white space, guys. So I really like the way that that turned out. I think it's kind of cool, and I have some ideas for future layouts, actually doing it intentionally and not to fix my mistakes. So, yay. That's one way to turn a boo-boo or a mistake or a mess up into something that you actually like. So right now I have the little inside bits from that ampersand. I'd figured I would go ahead and use those. Had I had another bike to put up there that was going to the left, I would have put that up, a bicycle up there instead of this Let's Go that I stamped out. Okay, so here comes the next boo-boo. I wanted this little tag that came from a Maggie Holmes round trip stamp set, which is also where that Let's Go came from. It says, love this, but the fired brick is really juicy, and I had stamped it out a couple times so it wouldn't be too thick, but it ended up just being really hard to read. And I was flustered with it, but it was such a small little thing. I thought, I'm not going to worry about it. If I try and fix it, that's going to be a bigger mess. So I just left it alone, but I am going to come in and fix it in a minute. So right now I'm just putting down my Bramble Fox perspectives, the little hearts in 3 different places. And they all are, oh gosh, they are all up on the top half of this layout, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to have all that mixed media and the stamping at the bottom. So the actual weight of the layout is definitely a little bit heavier on the top, but that's okay. So this is how I'm going to fix this boo-boo. I took this strip of white paper and I'm just stamp over and over again in different, like push down a little lighter in different ways. over and over again until I find one that I feel like is the most legible. It's because it's so small and that ink pad is so juicy. And I'm pretty new to stamping, so I just trim this out as best I can. I want a little bit of a white border because where the ink smushed a bit, it's not just where the stamp is. So I'm going to trim that down and then put some Nuvo Deluxe over top of the stamp where I've stamped it already, and then cover it up. And while, yes, you can tell there's a little, piece of paper there and it's not like it just disappears into the paper, it definitely looks better than the smushed, messed up ink. This is why I don't do a lot of stamping. When it is like these gears, if it had not gone on fully, because it's distressed ink, it's fine. That's the whole point. That's what it's supposed to look like. But when you want it to say something and it's words, or a design that you want fully, inked, it needs to be more clear. And I am terrible about that. I do have a Stamparatus from Stampin' Up, but when it's on a full layout like this, it's kind of hard to do that. So I am going to start working more with stamping in the future. But right now I've got so much going on that maybe it'll be a summer thing, because, I'm off of school for a few weeks in the summer and I can play around and sew. So now I'm going to get my Heidi swap and stamp the date. This is from 2016. I love these pictures. This is my son, and his dad's taking the training wheels off his bike, and then he attempts to teach him, and he does really well, but then he gets discouraged. So they sit down on the porch, and his dad gives him a pep talk, and this picture just speaks to me, and I love it. And it was funny because I started working on this, and my son came in and said, "Hey, I'm going to go to lunch with Dad." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So anywho, just good timing. So here it is, you all. I love how this turned out. Again, let me know if you're interested in seeing how I build my layouts on my Cricut Design Space, just so, for spacing purposes. Let me know if you have any questions, comments. I love to hear from you all. I hope that you'll come back and see me again, because my plan's to be here every day this month. Also, go check out Designs by Dana. Her information will be below, as well as the playlist for all the other amazing creatives who are hopping along. Have a fantastic day and happy scrapping.